Hey everybody, it's me, Zach. This is Judy, and welcome back to our channel. Hey everybody, how's it going? Today I want to talk just a little bit about 1,000 Pound Sisters prior to tonight's episode because we've got a lot to talk about. A lot has happened personally on social media, interactions that I've had, things I've seen that I just want to get out in the open, that editing happens on this show and it's influencing the way that you're thinking about both Amy and Tammy. Now, before I get into all of this, this is directly a response from a lot of people in my comments on my last review talking so much about how, I didn't go in hard enough on Tammy, how Tammy was such an awful person, how Tammy was this, how Tammy was that. XYZ PDQ. It's, there was a lot going on. And as always, I love that there is a conversation that's going on in the comments and people that have different opinions on me. I mean, we all bring something different to how we view this show and how we respond to this show. And so all of that just kind of led me to wanting to make this video and talking about things a little bit more. And because I got some tea from Amy and Tammy, some more public than others, and I think we should just talk about it. So I guess to start off, let me just say that I have built relationships with both Amy and Tammy outside of both my YouTube channel and them being on the show. Before they were on the show, I talked to both of them privately in DMs, and since they've had their show, I've continued talking to them privately. And I suppose you could say that that does impact what my thoughts and feelings about them as humans are. I will say that that is one of the things that I bring to my show watching experience that you may not have, and does influence, for better or worse, how I view both of them as people. So if you want to say that I'm biased because of that, that's probably true to some extent, because I do think that they've been incredibly kind to me, and I do bring that into my opinions about them as people, them on the show, whoever, whatever. Now, with that being said, after I got a whole lot of comments about not being hard enough on Tammy or going too easy on her, I made this tweet, which I want to share with you all. It is important because Amy ended up responding to it a bit later. I said, "Always interesting to see people say that I'm too easy on Tammy in my reviews, and I just don't see it. I've provided some tough criticism of her in the past. If you think I should have been tougher on her because the show edited her to look upset about Gage being born, even though they also showed her saying she was excited about him, I don't know what to tell you. There are plenty of things that Tammy has done wrong, but this isn't it for me." For all intents and purposes, I really stick by that. I really believe that that she has, on the show even, shown both excitement and frustration, or things that we as the audience have perceived as frustration or lack of enthusiasm about her nephew being brought into this world. I say all of that because I want to emphasize that editing is a thing, and I am an avid watcher of reality television. I don't talk about it as much on my YouTube channel just because, I don't know, folks are interested all the time in hearing me talk about things like Survivor, Drag Race, Big Brother, The Circle. I've actually made videos about Big Brother and The Circle, and they just don't perform super well. So even though I'm passionate about it, it's something that I tend to keep to myself as my own interest. But I can tell you, having watched all of those shows and things like The Real Housewives, Bling Empire, things like that, reality TV producers have to tell a story. That's a big part of it. And while it is supposed to be reality, what's happening in reality, they still go into seasons with a story that they want to tell. And they edit things in a way that tells their story. So an example of this is that the TV show Big Brother here in the US and in Canada, which is currently airing, they both have a live feed element, right? They happen in real time, and you can go watch the live feeds and see what is happening as it goes. However, 3 nights a week, they also air a televised episode for people to watch and see what's going on. Now, you can see just from watching the live feeds that editing happens to tell the story that the producers want to tell, that the people making the show want to tell, because you will see that they take conversations that you might have watched on the live feeds and they're going to splice and chop and do all the things they need to do to make it tell the story that they're looking for. And from what I can tell, this is something that's consistent across reality television as a whole. And that includes shows like 1,000 Pound Sisters. Now, before I get too much more into that, I want to provide some additional evidence that says that these shows, and by these shows, I mean this show, 1,000 Pound Sisters, has been edited. So one of the first things that came up in terms of knowing that they are just chopping and splicing and putting things all together in different ways was a comment that Amy made on one of my videos. I think it was like 2 episodes ago, where I think it was the episode where they saw the psychic. In fact, I know it was because Amy said this. And those scenes were filmed earlier in the year. That's why we didn't have much baby stuff. Psychic was filmed in like July. So they aired this psychic scene after the meet and greet, right? And the psychic thing happened in July, but the meet and greet we know happened in real time in September. So that just goes to show you there's not necessarily anything nefarious about what they're doing, but they're not necessarily telling us a story in chronological order. They're telling us a story that they want to tell. Now, in addition to that, Amy also posted this video introducing Gage to her audience, and in that she talks a lot about how the show suggested that in October she was at 7 months, but obviously that's not the case because Gage was born in November.
He is small for his age because I was 38 weeks when I had him. In the show, it kept saying in October I was 7 months, but clearly if he was born in November, I wasn't 7 months. I just wanted to clear that up. And the whole Amazon thing, I set that up in January. That's why it said I was due in January. Like, the day I set it up was my due date. I couldn't officially talk about him until he was born on the show.
So again, this is not necessarily harmful to anybody. It doesn't necessarily hurt anybody. It's just evidence that they are putting out the show that they want to put out, the story that they want to tell. In addition to that, Amy actually responded to my tweets that I read earlier in this episode, in this video, the one where I was talking about how, like, I think that I do provide Tammy criticism. This is what Amy had to say, actually, about that scene where they were not getting a lot of, like, responses out of Tammy. So Amy said, Tammy had COVID when Gage was born. She was sick. Her and Jerry had COVID. So there's a few things here that I think actually might be, in my opinion, and what I am perceiving as a little bit harmful to the character of Tammy that they're portraying. So they use this as an opportunity to show her as being somebody who's jealous, who's somebody who's not enthusiastic about having a new nephew. And the reality is that she probably wasn't talking a whole lot because she wasn't feeling well. She wasn't feeling her best self. And yeah, she probably wasn't in a space where she wanted to be filming anything or talking to anybody. It also really then adds a lot of questions about, like, what timeline is really going on here, because she and Jerry had COVID. They didn't say anything about Jerry getting COVID. They also didn't, tell us that she had COVID until the end of the episode, and suggested that a few days after Gage came home, she tested positive for COVID. And that's not to say that that's not true, because she very much could have not known at the time that Gage got brought home that she was COVID positive. But I think what it does raise as questions is, like, why was that not the takeaway for a lot of people who are watching? Like, hey, she may have already had COVID at this point. That may be the reason why she's so upset, or why she wasn't talking, or why she wasn't doing a whole lot, right? The editing tells you one story, but this is also a little bit about what the story could have actually been in real life. Like, it could have just been that she wasn't feeling well. So the next thing that happened that really raised my eyebrows of, like, what is going on here on this day, on this earth? Like, what is happening? Was that Tammy DM'd me and shared this. She said, so what you said about the producers chopping up the scenes we made in this video you posted, that's true. I caught COVID at the Mexican restaurant we went to. When I came out, probably would I've never gotten COVID if I hadn't went to that daggone restaurant, but it wasn't up to me. And I said, oh my God, wait, WTF, did they make you go to the restaurant? Also, am I able to share this? And then I kind of like started feeling bad. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want her to feel pressured to do anything. So I just said, sorry, I definitely won't share if it's necessary. But damn, I'm just like, so frustrated. This is messed up how out of order all of this is being shown on TV. And then she said, yes, they did make her go to the restaurant. And yes, I was able to share this. So I guess what I'm saying here and why I think that this is all foolery is, as you know, the Mexican restaurant thing happened and then Jerry left. And then we had a whole episode and then out of nowhere, Jerry came back. And it's just like, did Jerry even leave? Like, what is actually going on? What actually happened? I have, like, way more questions than I think I have answers to give anybody. I mean, I can only speculate based on what Tammy said to me and what Amy has been saying, which is the video clips that we're getting all over the place. Kind of like how this video has been. I just feel so frustrated to know that, like, this is really what's happening with the editing. And listen, this is not, again, me fully defending everything that Tammy has ever done. I think Tammy has a lot of room to continue growing as a human. I think she's got a lot of things that she needs to work on. I certainly think that she could care more about herself the way that her family members care about her. I think all of that can be true. But I guess I just want to say this. Like, remember that at the end of the day, Amy and Tammy are humans, right? Amy and Tammy are humans that prior to ever being on a television show were just like, for the most part, minded their own business in Kentucky. They had their little YouTube channels. Also, not to say that in the past on their YouTube channels that both of them haven't been messy or problematic. I'm not saying that either. But I'm just saying, like, when you see something on the show, it might not be the full story, okay? It might not be, you might not be seeing the full tea, the full story, the full whatever actually really happened. And listen, as somebody who loves reality TV, I don't want to just sit and watch Amy and Tammy chilling in their houses doing nothing by any means. You know, I really do appreciate that reality television tells stories. And I certainly think that some aspects, like I said, could be true. That, like, Tammy is worried about what's going to happen now that Amy and Michael are going to have less time to help her out and take care of her. But keep in mind that this stuff is exaggerated as well, and that they're intentionally showing us the clips that tell their story, and they're intentionally leaving out the clips that might tell us a different story. And you got to take that into account when you when you want to rip these folks to shreds. Like, it's not the case that Amy and Tammy are putting this stuff out on their own. Like, certainly you want to give a hard time to Tammy. Like, Tammy has a lot of videos on her channel still where she is, like, not being a super nice person, okay? That's just the long and short of it. And I think that same thing could be said for a lot of people that I discuss on YouTube. It's like, they are in charge of their YouTube channels and they put that out. But at the end of the day, while they did choose to go on this show, and I'm sure that they are benefiting from that in many ways, what they don't probably have a whole lot of say in is how the show is edited to tell the story that TLC wants to tell. And ultimately, I'm not mad that there's a story being told. I'm happy that we have a chance to come here on my channel and talk about what's happening after the fact. But I guess I also wanted to just give some insight into, like, why my mind is not automatically out here on my videos saying Tammy's the worst person ever, because the reality is that Tammy's a human just like all of us. Tammy has faults just like all of us. That Tammy is out here just trying to do her best, for better or worse, right? So keep that in mind when you are watching the show, but also enjoy it, because it would also be a really boring show if there wasn't any conflict, right? Like, if Tammy wasn't providing all of this conflict on the show and they weren't editing it in a way that was entertaining, we wouldn't be here talking about it every week, now would we? Now would we? Anyways, I hope that this video was interesting, gave you some insight about things that are happening. If you liked this video, please make sure to subscribe. I have a whole playlist of Slate and Sister related content. I also do a whole bunch of other stuff, so I hope you'll stick around for that as well. As always, please make sure to leave a comment down below, hit like, and click share because it really helps with the algorithm. Please also follow me on all of my social media. I had a whole lot of fun today. I hope you did too, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye!